In what I admit is a move that surprised me, the Republican National Committee voted to censure both Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. These are the two Republicans or nominal Republicans who are on the Pelosi January 6th committee. And interestingly, Ronna McDaniel, who's normally very cautious, this is the RNC chairwoman, was behind this. And they said, hey, look, these are people who have become party to a political persecution. Notice how these ideas of political persecution that were once, was one time it seemed like Julie Kelly and I and three other people were talking about this, but now this has now become the mainstream of the Republican Party. And it's recognized the horrific role that Kinzinger and Cheney are playing as stooges of Pelosi. Now, Cheney, of course, fires back. I do not recognize those in my party who have abandoned the Constitution to embrace Donald Trump. Well, this isn't really about Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump hasn't said a whole lot about January 6th. This is about fellow Republicans who are being put in solitary confinement, in a sense, tortured. And some of them are nonviolent, and some of them have not even had a trial. They haven't been found guilty of anything. And even so, Cheney and Kinzinger have been the cover artists for this political hit, and hit by the Democrats. Now, Kinzinger is an opportunist, and he's basically making his way out of politics. But Liz Cheney is running again. And in fact, she's raised a bunch of money. Why? Because people like the Bushes and people like Romney have been doing fundraisers for her. She's been able to sort of tap the old neoconservative establishment to generate money. I don't think there's any real prospect that she's going to win re-election, but nevertheless, she's got a war chest, and she seems to think that this kind of independence, if you will, is going to enable her to survive politically. But I want to think a little bit about Liz Cheney, because even though, Trump issued a statement and said, in effect, that he goes, congratulations to the RNC and its chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, on their great ruling in censuring Liz Cheney and crying Adam Kinzinger, two horrible rhinos. And that's the word I want to zoom in on, because Liz Cheney in her voting record has not been a rhino. It's not right to say that Liz Cheney is some kind of a leftist in disguise. No, you have someone with a pretty conservative voting record. And so what's up with Liz Cheney? Well, I think that there are really three things that are up with Liz Cheney. Number one, family loyalty. Liz Cheney sees this, her animus against Trump is because of Trump's not just personal attack on Dick Cheney, but also his ideological attack on what Dick Cheney's whole career represented, which is essentially a kind of hawkish foreign policy focused on military intervention, the war in Iraq. And so Trump derided all that. So I think Liz Cheney sees it as a measure of family loyalty to push back. Number two, Liz Cheney is, and she's not alone in this, of course, in the Republican Party, very straight-laced. And so her straight-lacedness, I think, turns against Trump. She doesn't understand how other people who are also straight-laced manage to vote for Trump and go, listen, Trump is the right man for the right time. Trump is the guy who knows how to fight. Trump is providing a kind of leadership the Republican Party does not typically provide. And so personal foibles and peccadillos aside, we're going to support the best general in this sort of current domestic Cold War. But Liz Cheney doesn't get that. She's like, why would anybody want to support that guy? So here you have a person who has this family loyalty, who is straight-laced, and who then, this is the third element that I think is needed to complete the picture, has a certain kind of obstinacy and self-righteousness. I say that because she's the kind of person where if you question her, look, you have the vast majority of the Republican Party that's gone the other way. And you think a normal person would go, well, you know what? Yeah, I have these views, but when all my fellow Republicans think differently, maybe there's something wrong with the way I'm seeing it. But that's not Liz Cheney. Her view is, I'm right. Well, if the majority of Republicans don't see it my way, that's because they are craven sycophants who have decided to worship at the altar of Donald Trump, whereas I alone, Liz Cheney, are going to stand against the tide. So this is the self-righteousness I'm talking about. It's actually a character defect. Why? It's a character defect because it doesn't recognize that there is a range of ways that one can look at a situation in the world. And by the way, we have to extend that same sort of sympathy of understanding, which I've tried to do in this very segment, toward Liz Cheney, but it's a sympathy that I don't detect that Liz Cheney has for the rest of us.